Do you feel like you're barely keeping your head above water? That no matter how hard you try, meaningful progress remains out of reach? Heather gets that. She battled an eating disorder for years before seeking help. Now in recovery, Heather is here to tell you that positive change is possible even when it doesn't feel that way. Join her as she shares openly about her struggles and small triumphs. Fair warning though, Heather doesn't hold back. Her candid story may trigger some. But for those wanting honesty, hope, and healing, this is 1% Better with Heather. The information and stories shared on 1% Better are based on host Heather's personal experiences with eating disorders and mental health challenges. Heather is not a licensed doctor, therapist, dietitian, or other health professional. Her advice and opinions should not be taken as professional medical advice. Please consult your physician or a qualified health provider regarding any medical or health-related issues. 1% Better also contains descriptions of eating disorders that may be triggering for some listeners. Discretion is advised.
Hey there, my little gappers, and welcome to 1% Better with Heather. And on today's episode, we have Jennifer Pilates. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, Heather, how are you?
I'm well. Would you mind introducing yourself to everybody and tell us all about you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a celebrity trainer, mindset coach, intuitive advisor, author, podcast host, and just all around fun loving, intuitive empath here to inspire, motivate, heal, and empower people around the world. I believe that everyone has a story to share, and I think that's really important to bring everyone's story to life. And I know you do such a great job of that on your podcast, as do I. And, it's been many years. Like, we both have been through challenges in our lives and overcome them. And I love sharing that in-between story that not a lot of people get to share, to let people know that you can be where you're at, and there is another side to bringing out that empowerment within you. There is healing, there is hope.
So how did you get started in all this? Let's start at the very beginning, as Julie Andrews would say.
Yeah, so the very beginning, really, I started my world in the corporate world. I was heavily involved with the senior living industry, specializing in Alzheimer's disease, transferred from the East Coast to the out West, running communities, and was in a traumatic car accident one day. And, I always say that the universe will whisper signs to you, and it will get louder and louder and louder if you're not hearing. And I wasn't hearing the signs. And so the car accident was definitely like, are you hearing us now? And I heard them loud and clear at that point in time. And so it was through that car accident that really opened up my mind to body, mind, and spirit, to transformation, to understanding the metaphysical side of the world, to understanding healing, to understanding what it means to be in alignment, body, mind, and spirit, to have that opportunity to experience numerous modalities that I had never heard of growing up on Cape Cod. I had no idea about so many different things. And so after spending 8 hours a day in and out of doctors' offices and all sorts of alternative holistic therapies, I was introduced to Pilates. And that is what really changed my world. And that is what brought me from living out of my body to living in my body. And it was through that rehab then that my whole world began to change. And at the end, I received a little bit of a settlement back in the day, got a little bit of money after a car accident. And no coincidence, it was just enough to go to the Pilates Center in Boulder, which is the Harvard of all Pilates schools. There were no coincidences. At this point, everything, I just leaned in and I went with it. And so my world changed. And my mission was that if I could come out and help just one person not be in pain, not have to go through whatever they're going through, that was my mission. And now 24 plus years later, it has expanded the Pilates to somatic Pilates, to healing on the nervous system, to understanding being an intuitive empath and helping highly sensitive people all around the world. So it's a true blessing out of a very traumatic experience. And I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change anything about it.
That's a lot. So I understand that the universe trying to talk to you. I understand all that. And then finding Pilates. Now I love Pilates. I've done Pilates for 20 years now.
Yay.
I mainly because I'm not a yoga person. I cannot meditate. My brain it doesn't run like that. So just Pilates is just a little bit more faster moving for me, right? Like the go,
Mhm.
go, go OCD in me. But when, what did that do to your mental health? When you found Pilates, like how did your everyday change?
Oh, everything changed. Well, I was no longer in the corporate world. At that point, I had transitioned to not working because I wasn't even able to drive my car, to then part time, to then the company was changing. And I knew that there needed to be layoffs. And I raised my hand and said, if you need to lay off someone, take me. And they did. And I was very young in the corporate world. I was only in my middle 20s. So, to be in charge of everything that I was in charge of was a big deal. And even making that decision of, okay, yeah, lay me off. Like, I want to do the right thing for the company and for everyone else. I was still shocked the day that it happened and dismayed. Like, what? How did this? And so there was this lapse. And the interesting thing, Heather, that during this time, during my rehab, when I was back to work part time, keep in mind, I was specializing with Alzheimer's disease. So I was surrounded with these incredible, amazing people. No one truly realized the impact on my neurological brain that had happened from the accident, and nor had I at that point, because of whom I was surrounded by. So there were so many intricacies that people didn't realize until I was really out of that environment. I mean, we knew that there was some stuff. We knew there was a concussion. We knew that but I really went into significant neurological treatment at that point in time. I didn't realize how depressed I was until I was given certain medications, until there were certain, interventions that happened in that time. I can remember one day I woke up in a church. I'd gone out for a walk and I woke up in a church and I had no idea how I'd gotten there.
Oh, that's scary.
Or it was wild. Or my good friend that I was living with would come home and the entire, like everything in the kitchen would have been rearranged, everything in a new cabinet, and I had no concept that I was doing this. I would ask for an apple, but that's an orange. So there was a lot that went on. And so for Pilates, the first day, even in my rehab, I can remember that it was about needing to feel safe because my body was stuck in fight or flight. And so it really took a lot of time for my body to be able to release. I had soft tissue damage from the base of my skull down to my pelvis. And soft tissue lasts a long time. Anytime you have damage to your body on a cellular level, that's trauma that needs to be released. And I would say that the miraculous aspect of Pilates that helped me through that was slowing down, was the breath, and was needing to be in my body. I had doctors who at that time had even said to me, you've never lived in your body. And I didn't understand the magnitude of that statement at that point in time. And I think that they knew it was not the time to address the why of that up to that point, because that's a whole nother ball game of my life, but really needing to address where I was in that state and in that mindset. And so I can remember the day that my body released. There's a machine called the Reformer, and I laid down on it, had my feet up, was simply going to do footwork. And she had me just breathe. And in that moment, the tears that streamed down my face, because for once my body finally felt safe. And so there was a lot of mindset work. There was a lot of needing to understand who I was. This was, in all intensive purposes, definitely a spiritual awakening. My world changed. I went from only knowing the corporate world since I was 15 years old in this industry to suddenly painting, to being I was a wedding coordinator at one point in time. I worked in an Italian restaurant. I did things that probably all my friends had done forever, but I never did any of that. So there was this huge shift and just thinking about the world much differently. And so by the time I finished with my Pilates training. So I rehabbed for a year. I trained then specifically for the schooling for a year, which was very much like a physical therapy school. That's how the Pilates Center in Boulder is. Very in tune with the body, very in depth into muscle and body, mind, spirit connection. When I came out, there was not even a thought of, oh, I'm going to go open a studio. I first just immediately went to work for one because I wanted to help people. And then when I moved back to the East Coast, that was my, like, I just wanted to have my own business. And I never knew what entrepreneur meant. I grew up in a military family. I grew up with people in retail. I had no idea what I was embarking on. So it became this incredible journey of figuring out who I am, understanding what I wanted, and then working on my own mindset. And that is how the coaching developed through every Pilates session with any person became this healing, intuitive coaching session. And that's why even in my Pilates practice with my clients, I really brought in that somatic aspect, that breath work, because when you can go that deep, and when you do go that deep in Pilates, it is awakening on levels that no one sees coming. And that's the beauty. That's that special sauce that's there if you can go there. And that's been lost for many years in the industry.
I had a friend say, you got to feel to heal, my friend. And I just, and it's so true. And I don't come from the corporate world, but I watched enough movies about it. But I can imagine, and when you're talking about living in fight or flight, it seems very dog eat dog world. And if you're just in that world all the time, I can't even comprehend the anxiety that was going through your body, but it just becomes your normal, right? Like this is normal. And when you sit and you breathe and you're talking about your tears, how did you deal? Like, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm having a breakdown. What's wrong with me? Right? Like, were you freaking out?
Not at all. It actually wasn't like that at all. It just felt like I felt so safe in that environment and so safe with the people around me. And and she just, she gave me a hug. I was like, thank you. I just don't know where this is coming from. And it was almost this unspoken, it's okay. You don't know you don't need to know. You just need to let it happen. And I can't tell you how many times that has happened with myself and clients. And that's what I tell them. You don't necessarily need to know. You just need to feel in that moment and release. That's the key. A lot of people feel, hold on, and sit on it. And I say, no, you just need to release it.
And that's hard to do, though. Like, if you could give someone advice, like what would be like the one thing that, because no, I don't know. Like, I think if you grow up in a certain way and you live in fight or flight, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. So it's very hard to just be like, everything is okay.
Right.
How do you get to that spot?
Work. It's a journey, right? Because before this accident, that is how I grew up. I grew up in a very toxic environment. And I didn't know all those years I was living in fight or flight. And it is something that when you grow up in that environment, you do come and go out of that. And it is a daily practice. You are healing daily. It is a journey. You don't wake up one day and go, I'm healed. It's amazing. I feel great. Yes, maybe from some of the car accident, absolutely I've healed, and absolutely there are things, but are there still trigger moments within my body because it still remembers things at a cellular level? Of course. Same when you come from, whether that's a toxic family or whether that's, whatever it is, it's you working that muscle of your brain, that muscle of your heart, that connection day in and day out always. That can be as simple as sitting and doing a gratitude practice. That can be breath work. That could be painting. That could be a walk in nature. And I know some people may go, what is she talking about? The truth is when you are giving yourself self-love, when you are turning your energy back into yourself and you're loving yourself, that's healing. It doesn't have to be this big, huge, dramatic, whatever you want it to be. It can be. Go for it. But at the end of the day, when you can come back into yourself, and maybe that's a Reiki meditation. I mean, daily I have a gratitude practice. I have a breathwork practice in the morning. I have a Reiki meditation that I do in the afternoon. I walk in the mornings. I walk at night. That's part of my healing practice day in and day out. That is what keeps me grounded. That is what keeps me connected and living in my body and learning that it's safe to be in my body. And that is a muscle that needs to be worked. That takes practice. And it's sort of like tipping your toe in the water to be like, ooh, like what's the temperature today? I'm not saying dive right in, especially when you've been living in fight or flight. Don't dive right in. I don't want you to. I want you to pick maybe one thing, and I want you to do a little bit. And I would say it's almost more important, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, Heather, to talk about the things you shouldn't do. You shouldn't be doing cold plunges if you're living in fight or flight. Absolutely not. Like that is so detrimental for your body when you're living in fight or flight. If you're an empath, if you're a highly sensitive person, that's not for you. That's not how our bodies are worked with. That's not how we're decoded or coded, however you want to say that. You know, it's about self-love. It's about what feels good. Do more of that and listen to your body. For years, trying to work through that fight or flight, the one thing that, besides everything that I just mentioned, that is still in my life every day that I work on, writing is a huge practice of mine. But one thing that I did embody that truly helped with the anxiety, the panic, you know, I need to get myself out of this fight or flight moment. I could be fine all day, but you can have a trigger and you don't know where that comes from. And that is when I have worked, and it's been 14 years now that I've worked with light frequency patches. And I'm very holistic. My first half of my whole first half of my life, asthma inhalers, pills, everything, right? This whole second half of my life is none of that. Thank you to the light frequency patches, which in under 15 minutes take your body out of fight or flight. And they have been life-saving for me. And it's something that to this day, I wear them every day. You know, they help my body stay in that best calm place that you can in a world that we're living in, right? It keeps you out of fight or flight. It doesn't mean that you don't have moments where you're like, oh my gosh. I mean, a couple years ago, I was in a traumatic weather situation. And let's be clear, I didn't just have one patch on that day. I was holding all 30 of them, okay? Because sometimes you have that day. And I think that what's important is to remember that that day is okay. That day doesn't debunk the thousands or hundreds of days that you've had before that. That was one moment in one day, and you're still okay. And you can move forward from that. You didn't go backwards. You still move forward. You're not beating yourself up or anything like that. So the light frequency patches have been truly a game changer in my life for helping with all of the anxiety, the depression, the fight or flight, being able to stay grounded and stay in my body and to help me feel safe in my body. Because when you do grow up and you come from a toxic environment and then you have a traumatic car accident and then, because we all have many events, events that happen, mm-hmm. You learn that when something, you're like, peace out, I'm leaving my body. And your body is your temple. Your body is your safe place. That's your inner child. That's your current self. That's where your future self. That's where you all meet. And that's when the healing begins. And when you can get to that place that, one, you want to do that work and you want to feel safe in your body, that's where the magic begins. That's where your superpowers will begin to be enlightened for you. So for me, all of the things that I've mentioned, but wholeheartedly, Heather, you'll laugh. I had a friend the other day. She goes, knowing what you know about the world and knowing everything that you know intuitively, what are a few things you would never be without? And the first thing that I said was my light frequency patches, hands down. And then it became like a water filtration system and all sorts of things. But that was...
water. You might need that. But
might need some.
I want to... Okay, so these patches have got me very, very, very curious. Now, mm-hmm. I don't want to sound like a jerk. However, that's who I am. maybe a little skeptical, right? Like,
100%.
come on, like a patch is going to make me calm, right? Like, mind you, I would take anything at this point, but I'm just saying for the people who are like, yeah, okay, a patch is going to do that. Can you, where do these patches come from? Where are these magic patches?
Exactly, they're the little miracle patches. So they're amazing. They were actually introduced to me by my business partner in the middle of an anxiety attack. And he was like, just hold this for a minute. And I was like you, I'm like, what do you, dude, like I'm freaking out and you're telling me to hold something. And literally I held it. And for those, I'll give it to you in this perspective. If you've ever had a glass of wine and all of a sudden you feel your body go, double, triple, quadruple that. That was the feeling. And I looked at him and I said, is this how you feel every day? And he said, now I do. And I said, where can I get them? How many more? And to this day, I've shared them with clients and family and friends and on my animals. And so basically it's a little patch. I should have pulled them out, but there it is.
Oh, yeah, okay. Like a little Band-Aid.
It's literally a little patch. Like it's not as big as a 50-cent. It's like a little Band-Aid, right? You put it on. It's completely hyperallergenic. So, and I'm like the most sensitive, uber sensitive person in the world. So the way that you can see the little, the adhesive
it almost
on the
looks
outside.
like a little like
It looks like a little disc, right?
Yeah.
And so the way the disc works is that it's so freaking cool, Heather. It's just amazing. And every day I'm all excited about it. So you place this on your body, okay? It utilizes your body's own energy in the form of infrared heat to power up and to activate the little white part that you see there, the materials there. The patch then reflects your light onto your skin, which stimulates your skin and begins healing. So essentially, your body's infrared light reflects off the patch, reflects your light back into you, and you begin your own healing process. Your healing begins with you.
Yeah. Okay.
All of our healing comes from within inside. So I can tell you more. If you want to know more, I can tell you more. That's
I want all of it.
That's like the layman terms, like all day long. Like I literally sit here crying all day long, happy tears, clients and people calling me with the stories and the testimonies that they have above and beyond my own anxiety, et cetera stuff. So as you see, I have it just on the back of my neck, 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And it just is amazing. It really helps you to have this new level of vitality and energy while working. So if you think about your body, think about acupressure, think about acupuncture. So we place the patches on acupressure points on the body. When your body is full of energy, it's full of light waves, but energy can get blocked. What happens when your energy is blocked? Your lymph nodes, stock up, everything becomes a mess. And so those patches help to release the energy, to get the energy moving. When your energy is moving and when you're in alignment, your body can heal on a cellular level. And that's what these patches are able to do. So one, we can release fight or flight in under 15 minutes. The other part is that within the first 24 hours, your stem cells within your body begin to renew themselves. So think about like shedding skin, but not literally shedding skin. So you're made up of stem cells. By the time you're 50-some, most of them are dead and you're not getting any new ones. That's what causes aging. The patch, and there's numerous, but the patch, what it does is in the first 24 hours, it begins to reset 3,000 to 4,000 genes in your body to a younger, healthier state. Some people instantly just feel relaxed. Some people feel nothing. If someone has pain, the inflammation begins to decrease and the pain, the anxiety, all of that goes away, begins to reduce. It's very different for every person. I always say, you know what, Heather, you're my next best testimony. How's it going to work for you? Some people are one patch wonders. Some people are 7 days. Some people are 30 days. We always say for every decade that you've been on this earth, that's how many decades that you want to commit to undo everything that you've done. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. My first half of those 50 years were all medications and this and trauma. There's a lot that needs to be undone. So in the first 24 hours, you're resetting your genes, 3,000 to 4,000. Within the first 1 to 3 months, you're increasing collagen. So this should perk up some women's ears. You're increasing the collagen from the inside out, which then, of course, is decreasing your wrinkles. It's increasing your hair growth, your nail growth. This is not a lie. Since being on the patches, I had to learn how to cut my own hair because my hair grows so damn fast. Also, you don't get gray hairs anymore. Your natural dark hair all comes in. It's amazing. That happens. In 3 to 6 months, you are looking at cellular repair throughout your body. Now, what I find simply fascinating is that you can come and say, well, I have pain. I'll say, well, put the patch on where the pain is. The pain goes away. But those patches know exactly where to go and heal. They always are working on that cellular level. So when we talk about any autoimmune disease, asthma, MS, I can't think of all the names right now. Yeah, I actually shouldn't even say the names. But anywho, like suddenly people show up and they're like, I'm going to my doctor's and I was on a slew of medications and I'm not anymore. This is like, I don't believe this, And then the most miraculous thing is all the research studies that we've done, which are clinical studies, FDA approved, considered a medical device, sold in 80 countries around the world. Within 6 to 12 months, I'm glad you're sitting down, 14 out of 15 people lowered their vascular age by an average of 8 years.
So your heart's ticking better.
Not only is your heart ticking better, but the muscles are refurbishing. Everything, when you're looking at stem cell regeneration on a cellular level, you're literally refurbishing your entire body from a cellular level. So think about rebooting your computer. You're literally rebooting you. So what we say, this isn't anti-aging. This isn't just health. This is literally age reversal. So you can reboot back. I no longer am on anxiety meds. I no longer am on asthma inhalers. I no longer wear glasses at night to drive. I mean, it's been amazing. I years ago had a heart surgery and then was told that I had a leaky valve. I don't have that leaky valve anymore. I literally have thousands and thousands and thousands of people that I've worked with and testimonies. When I'm working with my clients, who 90% of them are empathic, highly sensitive people, intuitive empaths, the patches are a game changer. Right now in our world, we've got so many energies coming in from solar flares and everything that's going on. And I didn't even mention, repels 5G radiation and EMF. Right there is a game changer for me personally. I'm a very sensitive human being. I feel everything. I couldn't even be near a 5G tower before. Now, I still don't want to be near one. Yeah. However, it makes a big difference. To know that we're surrounded by computers and our phones and the lights, and it's repelling that is amazing.
See, and I'm thinking from eating disorder land here.
Please.
Most of us with like I have bulimia and anorexia, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go into recovery, no, not all, but me, I can only speak for me. You're scared shitless of food. Like the last thing you want to do is eat, right? Like I always say, my kryptonite's also my medicine, which is very, very, very complicated. So you're having panic attacks around food, right? And I know it sounds off the charts, but it's the truth. Just to have that, just so you could sit and maybe quiet a voice so you can have the nourishment you need to come back to life and not have the guilt, shame, everything that comes with it. If this patch does do what you're saying it's doing, that could be like a huge game changer for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you just put that A plus B, because I want to also equal the C. So when this goes to mindset, this goes to neurological aspects. So we're talking about brain rebalancing. The brain rebalancing that happens to release the anxiety, the depression, the panic It would be the same for me as it is for you, whether that is associated with food or whether that's a panic to get on a plane.
Right.
Completely different. And I would not downplay either one. I think both are, I think it's all horrific personally, because I am that horrific about getting on a plane. But when it comes to being able to rebalance the brain so that it can function the way it's supposed to.
So is
so
it
that
making, is it making new neural pathways? Is that-
Absolutely, because you're
Okay.
regenerating your stem cells.
Got
So
it.
now, where there once was fear and panic, when we get out of that fight or flight state, we can now begin to think clearly. We have clarity. You've got the right pathways and the energy flowing, so you feel better, through all of that. And that's so important. That's important for, when we're working with autism and ADHD, and we're working with seizures, and we're working with Parkinson's and MS, and it all comes back to that cellular level of we need to reboot and get back to stage one. We need to go back to that perfection of a human being that you were born to be. And because of whatever has transpired that we've been through that has brought us to where we are today, I always say there's a lesson and a blessing in everything. I think that's super important to look at. You can now really tap into that best version of yourself safely, calmly, and on an entirely new health level that was never possible unless you were going to fly out of the country and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so all of this came to be from an incredible scientific human being who believes that everyone deserves to live healthy and pain-free and deserves to have the ability to do that, the affordability to do that. And he's created
I am beyond interested.
It's 20 years. The company's been going for...
We're going to have a conversation off camera.
The company's been going for 20 years. I've been patching for 14. I patch and the cool thing, I think it's very cool, is that when I take off my patch, I can then use it on my animals. So again, it's amazing. Yes, you can use them on children. I feel like someone's going to ask. Absolutely. Children, there's so many testimonies out there of how someone has begun patching and say that they had tremors and they're no longer seeing tremors. They had memory issues and now their memory is improved. I have to be careful how I say it, right? Because we don't diagnose, we don't treat, we don't do any of that. But do I not sit here every day in happy tears with amazing testimonies? And that drives me because I believe every person does and should live a happy and healthy life and not in pain and anxiety and afraid of what I'm going to eat or what am I not going to eat. I've been there the first half of my life. I did not have a good relationship with food at all. It was very detrimental. But now to know that I feel safe living in my body, a person who really probably didn't live in their body for 40 some years, is pretty amazing. And I work at it every day and I'll continue to work at it every day.
We're going to have a conversation. But I wanted to talk to you about because you touched on being an empath. And I think that that's very important too, like in my world, because I think most of us with eating disorders are empaths, right? Or we're Gen X and we just got brought up the way that we are. So, but taking on other people's crap, right? And always wanting to strive to be better, to be the best mom, the best baker, the best whoever, the best TikToker. I don't care, pick something, right? When you're an empath, you take that all on because if your kid falls down or doesn't win the trophy at soccer, well, it's your fault. You didn't try hard enough to put them didn't have the right soccer coach and whatever. It's not, but like we're going to make up these scenarios that make no sense, right? Can you maybe explain how if you're because I was always told you're just sensitive. Now I know it's empathic. Right? Like you're just sensitive. And then I went the other way and I became very, very, very insensitive to people. Right? And now having a second chance at life, I, like you, had a whole big smack in the face from the universe by a shovel. And here we are. So now I'm into it. Now I'm into the empathic side of me. So sorry, that was like a million questions.
No, but I get it all. But it all comes back to one very important question, and something that a lot of people don't understand because they get very confused. They have been told they're sensitive, they're dramatic. Just let it go. I have choice words for those people because now I'm on the empowered side of it. I was on the, insecure side of it for a lot of times. 90% of empaths are people like Heather, like myself, who have had some sort of traumatic experience at a young age, whether you remember it or not. And at that point in time, in order to navigate your surroundings, you became uber sensitive to everything and every person around you because you needed to navigate this for yourself so you could feel safe. So at one point in time, you took it on that, okay, if I make sure that everything is going great and everybody's okay and I'm walking on eggshell, you're good, you feel good? Okay, then I can rest, I can feel safe. And there's layers to this, right? One, we want to get to the root cause of why do we feel that way? And that there's so many ways to do that are so much more easier than 30,000 hours of therapy. Not that I poo-poo therapy, because I also think therapy is very useful, but there's lots of healing techniques. There's so much that you can do. And I want people to know that you do not have to go back and relive something that was horrendous that happened to you in order to heal from it. And I think that's super important for people to understand. And I hope that someone just took a sigh. You don't. There's so many different ways. And so how do you know, am I an empath or a highly sensitive person? Sort of one and the same. When you're an empath, and I've written about this a lot on my website, on my blog, there's, 30 questions you can ask yourself, if you're an empath, how sensitive are you? Crying at weddings? Are you crying at every movie? Are you uber sensitive? Are you attracting animals? There's so many basic questions. Do you just always know things?
Yes.
And every empath is very, very different. When it comes to your intuitive side and how you know things. Do you hear them? Do you feel them? Do you smell it? There's lots of intricate layers to it. Okay. And so I'm trying to touch on a little bit of all of your questions. But at the end of the day, what I want people to know is when you are coming through that phase of learning, am I an empath or not? Most people feel very disempowered. They feel that they have been cursed. I can't go to a concert. I hate sitting in a restaurant. I can't filter out the sounds. I can't watch horror movies anymore. Maybe can't drink alcohol, certain foods. Well, it's all because your body is so amazingly protective of you. It's trying to help elevate your energies and protect you. So everything that feels in the beginning like a curse is actually your amazing freaking superpower. And one of the easiest ways I love to talk to people about being an empath is when you think about the forest and you think about all the animals, who's the one that comes through that warns everybody that holy heck is about to break loose? The elephant comes traipsing through. That's what you are. As an empath, you are the one that I was always going to know, hands down, before anybody else, when shit's gonna hit the fan. You're gonna know. Whether that's in the family, whether that's in the world, and it depends on what you are attuned to. I happen to be on the uber side of being like a crazy, and people have called me a master empath, give me all sorts of labels, I don't know. All I know is I feel every solar flare. I can tell you when there's a hurricane. I can tell you where it's going to go. I can tell you about earthquakes. I can tell you about people, places, and things. And it has turned into being an incredible superpower for myself, for my business, for my clients when I'm working with them, and I can look at them and they can come in with one sentence and I really know what they wanted to ask. And so we can peel back that onion and get right to the heart and get to the root of what needs to be addressed. And so being an empath makes you an incredible and powerful badass. And I want you to know that, and I want you to find a way to embrace it, because there were many, many years that Oh, I cried. I wore every freaking crystal. I gave my power away. I thought if I wear every crystal, I'll be protected. If I stand on top of my head and say this,
Yeah.
this poem 12
Yeah.
ways, I'll be no, 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 no. You are your protection. You are your superpower. And there's so many ways. And I would say my specialty is working with Empaths 101 to help them get to that place of feeling very empowered very quickly and turning what they feel as a burden into the most powerful aspect of their worlds.
And I think like this is why you do what you do and I do what I do. I think I always say there's guides and there are teachers and there are like experts. And I think, well, I know, I always say go find the guides because I don't care how many books you read. Unless you lived in an experience, you're never going to understand it. Because I would never counsel someone coming off heroin. I've never done heroin. What the hell do I know about heroin? So I always said, like, go find. I wouldn't teach someone how to do Pilates. Like, you probably wouldn't want to see my form. But that's why you got to where you are right now, because you're just like, no, I'm going to help people. Like you become like, I'm just going to help, and you build it, they will come. Sort of.
Right. Like I lived from the place of service long before I ever knew the impact of that statement. And that's super important. And something else that's important to know too is that pay attention to who comes on your path. There were plenty of mentors that I never looked for, didn't know that I needed, and they're in my life now. And that is super powerful too. But being able to get out and just say, I want to be empowered. Absolutely. And you should be in the world that we're living in right now, because this is the time where anyone that is an empath, an intuitive, highly sensitive person, you are being elevated. You are the light. You're supposed to be shining the light. And all of us do it for different ways and in helping different means. And each one of us are equally as important, because you've got a special light in you. Heather has one in her. I have one in me. Together, we're one big beacon of light, and that's what the world needs right now.
And I love the idea. Like I always say, I'm just trying to build a village, right? Hopefully, people are listening, right? But I never want someone to feel like how I did, right? That shame, guilt, all the horsemen come on down, right? Always at the house, not invited, but always there. And it's just, once you come out of the dark, you never want someone to feel how you did, right? And building a village to your village. And I'm like building villages. I'm like Bob the Builder around here. I'm just building, right? And it just, everything goes hand in hand and hand in hand, right? And when you're saying that you're going to meet people and listen, yes, someone said to me, well, a lot in my lifetime, you do a lot of talking. Do you do any listening? And when you stop and listen, man, you get some answers. Sometimes you don't like the answers, but you're going to get some answers.
Right. And the key is to be in search of them and to listen in the quiet moments, because it's always when you can get to that point where you live leaning into flow, leaning into your intuition, leaning into the universe, into God, whomever it is. I just want you to know that there's someone bigger than you that you're praying to or talking to. That's the magical moments, because not everything is going to come because you have a knock at the door and it's the Dalai Lama. I had a knock at the door. It was a neighbor I had never met. She came in, she said one sentence to me, and I was like, damn, didn't see that coming. Never saw her again, but did she give me a message? She absolutely did. Messages come in incredible shapes and forms when you're paying attention. And the key is listening to those little whispers before they get too loud. And I would say it's like the fry pan upside the head. Yeah. You want to catch those, and it becomes fun. I love living my day in flow, and I love to work with God and my angels and my guides and go, okay, you know what? You've placed this in my heart. You're the how. I co-create and I'll take action, but you do all the middle work. And that's what people need to remember too. They always get caught up in going, well, I want to do this, so I have to do A, B, and C. No, you don't. Sit back. The universe has an easier way. Better, quicker, stronger. But it takes practice. You just don't show up one day and you're like that. I was not like that. I used to try to manifest and force things in my manifestation. It doesn't, no. It's about flowing with it, working with the universe, working with God, and really being willing to admit to yourself what is in your heart, what you really want versus what you think you need.
Right? And as we talked about earlier, it's that always comparison. And now with TikTok, social media, blah, blah, we're just tuned into everybody else's lives and compare. And if you're me, you get to a certain point where it's going to kill you. So not good. And now coming out of that and being like, you know what? I wake up every morning and I say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, baby Jesus. I don't care who's up there, who's listening. I don't care who I'm praying to at this point. Thank you. I'm like breathing, right? Thank you. And just living in gratitude goes so far. And F everybody else, right? Like, I don't care. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care what other people think about me on the internet. There's something about letting go and letting God, man, right? And man, does your life change when you just find peace.
Absolutely. Letting go and letting God is equally as important as tuning out to tune in.
Yeah.
The more you tune out, the more you figure out who you are. Remember, everything is a distraction that's around you. Your cell phone, CELL, is a phone. You've entrapped yourself in your own cell. No one had to lock you up. It's a misconception what people say out there. You've locked yourself up. We all have. When you start to have that mindset shift and you can just put something down and go, why am I so like slightly addicted to whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or all this stuff? You know, why do they want to keep you on those platforms? Why does any platform, for that matter, want to keep you on it? It's a distraction. From what? From you, from your life, from what you know to be true. Don't look for Betty Lou to tell you what feels true to you. Then if you and Betty Lou have a real conversation and you really know each other, then that's one thing. But it really is about getting back to community. It's about building the community. No more division. We're done with that. And that's the shakeup and the purging that everyone is feeling and seeing with our earth right now. Mother Earth is purging like a mother, literally right now, through the weather, through the land, through people, more people are getting divorced right now. More people are, all the narcissism in our world is being exposed. We literally as a collective are purging. And so if you're not in flow with that, it's not going to feel so great. So I encourage you, by tuning into yourself and tuning out the distractions, these next few years will be much easier for you than if we stay locked up in our cell phone or cell computer, whatever you want to call it. If you stay locked up and you stay in that world, it's going to be tough. Yeah. And it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. And you deserve to feel every feeling that's magical that's coming through you.
And I always say, like, people are like watching people donate their time or give back to the community. Why are you watching other people do it? Why don't you go do it? You will see what it's like. Giving back it's a high, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's a beautiful thing to do. And put down that phone and go back.
Do something. Yes. Go do something. For years in Arizona, every holiday we get together with the NFL alumni and we go serve with St. Vincent de Paul for the meals. So every holiday for years I have spent with the homeless and the homeless veterans. And that means more to me than anything. But when the world was shut down and I was unable to do that, I experienced what it was like to just, I don't want to say just, but to be with family around holidays. And it just felt so, I felt so disconnected. Like my heart and my soul, I knew what I usually do and I know what feels good. And this just was like, it just wasn't it anymore. And giving back can be a smile, literally giving someone a smile. It's not about giving money. Giving your time is so valuable. Holding a door, giving a smile. Maybe you pay for the coffee for the person behind you. It's literally those little moments that make up such magical times and can literally change your day. Change your day. Yesterday, I was in line at this bakery here and I saw, there were a bunch of people coming in. I had no idea what I wanted. I'd never been there. So I'd be like, go ahead, go ahead. And this gentleman came in and he clearly was from the hospital. And I said, you must be on your break. Please go ahead of me. I don't know what I want. And he was like, no. And I'm like, no, go, really. We're in this little southern town having an argument about being nice to one another. Like, no, you go. No, you go. Like, that's the world that we want to get back to.
Yeah.
We want to get back to that world where we're literally care about the person that's standing next to us. Not 6 feet, but who is really next to us and who do we want next to us? And that's something that you really need to discern right now too. And the universe is asking you to discern who's in your circle and who should be there versus who is really there.
Yeah. And when you invite people from social media into your circle, it can affect you and you don't even realize it. Like there's a lot of things like I'm guilty, right? Like I watch a lot of TikTok videos. I watch a lot of cat videos. I like my panda bear videos. I like my koala video. I'm really on that side of it, right? And I like watching the American foods because we don't have them here in Canada. But other than that, I really have to watch like what I'm watching because it will affect how I treat people, how I treat myself, what I think about myself, what goes on, my mood. Am I going to go be a road raging freak show? Or am I going to be a nice person and let a person into a lane today? It took me a long time to figure out what I'm taking in is really doing a lot more to me than what I realized.
Right. Well, as they say, you are the sum of whatever you surround yourself with, whatever you're reading, whatever you're eating, all of that. And what you put in is how you're going to blossom. And so I have my own 2 kitties, so I'm all about cat videos and things like that. But then I say, being the empath that I am, there are moments where I call it toggling. So I will toggle into this 3D world, which is the world that we live in every day, everything that's happening. I will toggle into that world to be aware of what's going on. God, show me what I need to know. And then I get the heck out of there pretty damn quick. Yeah. I don't stay long. I come in, I check on the weather, I whatever I'm guided to look at, and then I go back into my world, my happy world, where people are arguing about being nice to one another.
Yeah.
That's where I stay in that elevated energy. I'll drop down to the 3D when I'm guided to, but boy, I don't stay there anymore. It repels me.
I'm with you because I haven't watched the news.
Oh,
since,
years.
Yeah, I can't.
Years.
Like there's a lot of other things. I can't do this.
No, it's no point, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no, but it's just like my mom will talk. She's like, didn't you see? Nope. And she's like, you sure live in a bubble. I like my bubble.
Love my bubble. My bubble's beautiful.
It's fine. I'm with you. If I need to know something, if something bad is happening, I'm pretty sure I'll find out about it. Right? Other than that, maybe ignorance is bliss. I don't know.
To some extent, it can be. I always say, like, what you're meant to know, you will know. I mean, before our podcast, I was reading something of which I'd been given, like, the whispers have been coming in, right? And they're getting stronger now. And it's about weather patterns that are going on. And I know what's going on. And I was like, my words that came out of my mouth, I said, God, this isn't going to be safe. You know what I heard? Have I always gotten you out when you needed to get out? And I said, okay, I will ride this out until you show me the out then. Okay, but I am aware that this is some shady times right now. This is some shadiness going on. Yeah. But, and that's the key. It's to What are you being directed at in this moment? What is the lesson? What is the blessing? For me, in moments like that, it's not to drop into the fear like I kind of did. And then right away, you know, my higher power came in and was like, hey, you know, God's like, haven't I always protected you in the middle of the storm? Regardless if that's a physical storm or if that's a storm in your world, you know, you're protected. And it's, you know, just taking that moment to go, okay, what's my lesson there? Yeah, you know what? God's always got me. He's always gotten me out. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep on my path. And when I'm told go, well, then holy heck, I'm going to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I'll go.
I got to come visit your world. You're going to have a Canadian come hang out with you.
I would love it.
I could talk to you for hours, my friend. I really could. We have a lot more in common.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So before, as we wrap up here, tell everyone where they can find you.
Sure.
All over social media, as we just said. Everyone put your thumbs down.
So I know, totally, right? So I have this love-hate relationship with social media. So the best place to find me is jenniferpilates.com. That's my website. You'll find, I mean, everything about from Pilates to the patches. If you'd like a complimentary chat with me, we can totally arrange that. I'm happy to continue any conversation and answer any questions that you have. I do have a free Facebook community. It's private. It's holistic, empowered within holistic health and wellness. We talk everything health and wellness, patches, and more in that private group. It is very explicit on the holistic end. And you know, I'm on all the platforms, but really if you want to get to me, reach out on the website, come into the Facebook group, and let's chat. So that's jenniferpilates.com.
You're going to be hearing a lot from me, my friend. I hope you come back. I feel like I didn't even touch the surface with this conversation.
I would be honored to come back anytime.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, thanks again so much.
Thank you, Heather. This has been amazing. And thank you for all you're doing and all the light that you're shining in the world. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. I don't know how to, because I'm never on Zoom, so I don't know how to stop this. Oh, there it is.
That's all for this episode of 1% Better. To continue the conversation, head over to our website at www.1percentbetter.ca, where you can access more stories and resources. We'd also love it if you subscribed and left us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember, friends, progress takes patience, perspective, and sometimes a little help from people who get it. So be kind to yourself and others as we work to get 1% better every day. We'll see you back here next week.